Okay, good morning, Lyons School District 103 community, staff, students, families. I am Chris Rivera, Superintendent of District 103, and I have what we're beginning to do is our video webcasts that I'm going to try to do weekly or every other week to keep the community, staff, students, and stakeholders in the community informed of positive, great programs and people that we have here in the district. So today, I am beginning this endeavor, and I really want to highlight one of the first moves I did as superintendent was come in and develop an English language learner director program position. And with that, I have a couple of guests who are going to help me highlight why I did this. I'm very excited that I did this. I believe it's going to serve a large segment of our students, and it is much needed. So with me, I would like to introduce our EL director, Ms. Ortiz. You want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good morning. My name is Ruby Ortiz. It's my second year in the district. Last year, I was able to do this role part-time on top of being an AP at the middle school. So I am very excited that it is full-time now. And before I came to District 103, I was in CPS, specifically Edwards, which is one of the largest elementary schools in that district, about 1,700 students. So in that population, about 700 to 800 of the students were in the ESL program. So I was able to get a lot of experience working in that capacity.
Thank you, thank you. And to my left, I have one of our EL teachers from Lincoln. Can you go ahead and briefly introduce yourself?
Hi, I am Irene Auto, and this is my 6th year in the district. I work with our ESL and bilingual population. Yeah.
Very good, very good. So Ms. Ortiz, tell us a little bit about your background as it relates to this position.
Well, like I mentioned, I was able to get a lot of experience with the bilingual program being at my old school. That school was dual language, so there's differences for sure with dual language, with the push-in model and all of that. So I was able to see several different models to see what would work well here. And then at, like I said, at GW, I ran the bilingual aspects and ESL components.
Good, good, good. Thank you. And what exactly does the EL director job entail?
Well, I think before I even answer that, I want to point out of how important it is because of the demographics in our district. 70 to 75% of our students are from Latino background. And of those, about 32% are in the ESL program. So that's, of that 32, I would say about 2/3 are like returning students. So it's not newcomers. So students that have not exited out that are showing still gaps in their academic abilities.
So to be in the ESL program, you have to have been identified with some English language deficiency, correct?
Correct, yes. So sometimes people think to be ESL, it automatically means you speak another language. Not necessarily. We do have students that only speak English, but there's another language spoken in the home. So when we do our teachers administer the WIDA screener, if they don't score a composite, it varies by grade, but for the most part it's at 5.0, then that just means that there are some gaps in their academic English language. So nothing to do with them being bilingual, they could be monolingual.
And just to kind of review, the main purpose of an English language learner program is to learn English, correct?
Correct, yes. It's to close the achievement gap so that they are successful in their academic career.
Very good, very good. And my next question is, what are some of the goals that you hope to accomplish with this group of students, with this large population of students?
I guess I would have to really think of like what my goal is, like working with staff, so with principals, with teachers, developing them, utilizing data. I'm very data driven. How do we use data? Not, we do have to do all these tests. How do we use NWA? How do we use the access scores we get for the lower grades? Is AIMS testing appropriate? How do we use the data more than anything of like identifying where students' gaps are, and then how do we target that to fill those gaps so that they no longer are gaps, and so we're able to elevate our students.
Very good. And to reiterate my point of creating this position, prior to that there was a big disconnect across the district with this very large group of students, that it was somewhat disorganized in how we were trying to provide the service and assure that it is getting as thorough as need be. And that was because, you were busy doing an assistant principal position and you couldn't do and provide all of the attention to this large group of students that was necessary. So very, very good, very good.
And then just to add, there's also a lot of moving pieces. So when I was assistant principal on top of director, I wasn't able to connect to all the key players. So this year, Mr. Naglick and I, Ms. Bergen and I are already working together so that a lot of our ESL students are also identified as special ed students. So how do we use our resources together? And working with Mr. Naglick on providing more PD for our ESL teachers so that they have an understanding of Pearson, and they're using their already expertise to the table of their language, of how to teach ESL students, but they also need the content of like, okay, how does this curriculum work? So it's a lot of working together, which is time consuming.
And that's very good. And Ms. Ortiz mentioned Mr. Naglick and Mrs. Berggren, and Mr. Naglick is our curriculum director, who also curriculum and instruction, who also delves into it. A lot of these initiatives overlap, so it's great to hear that our curriculum director, as well as our student services, who really works with the special ed population, that these three directors are working closely together to make sure we're being as efficient as possible for our students to gain the growth that they need. So thank you for sharing that. And so let's transition into a little bit into the classroom. Ms. Autofred, what does this look like in your classroom? What is your classroom looking like in helping students learn the English language better?
Sure. So currently we are using the push-in pull-out model, trying to gear more towards the push-in. And what I do is we work with students to support them based on their academic needs, and we use the information from access testing, which is the test that they take, a language test, to see what their gains are from year to year. And we use that information to really try and focus on the strategies that we need to use, because we're really trying to focus on using research-based practices. And some of the strategies and practices that we've been using that have really worked are the use of visuals. Our EL population, they truly benefit from visuals, from the use of realia, from manipulatives, and a lot of scaffolding. I mean, I think that's one thing that sometimes we kind of forget about, but it's so important.
Absolutely, and the strategies that you were just mentioning, there's a ton of brain research that goes into, which you went to college to learn, and you did a lot of work and a lot of practice, that shows that this helps individuals with two languages, English language learners with deficiencies, to learn better, to learn more efficiently.
Correct.
Is there anything you want to add about those techniques and styles you use, and maybe even describe a little bit what scaffolding is?
Sure. So I'll just go ahead and jump in. So what scaffolding basically means is to provide the students with a task, but before you do that, you model it for them. And using visuals helps them tremendously because they're able to make that connection. And so you allow them, slowly you kind of release them into letting them do the work on their own, but picture like a bicycle. So you start them off with training wheels and you let them get the hang of it. And once you see that they're becoming a little more comfortable, then you start slowly taking away the training wheels until they're able to just do it on their own. So that is very important when working with our EL population.
Have you been able to feel the impact of this director position in some positive ways?
Oh, definitely. I feel like it's this year we were able to just jump right into the classroom and start working with the students. The tasks that we had at the beginning of the school year we've met as a department and we've kind of talked about how it was necessary to delegate some of the work to free up a little bit of our time so we can work with the students, and we're really starting to see the benefits of that now.
Great. So, briefly in summary, I really appreciate both of you coming on and helping inform the community of this program, of what you do and the different levels. It is a large group of our students. I really value the work that you do and appreciate everything you're working on, and just wanted to share with the community the importance of what you do. So thank you both for being on, and thank you all, and see you next week.